Was good, YouTube, iFunny, Bitcoiners, and now, hello, magicians, or I guess like warlocks, or witches, or whatever you guys want to call yourselves. So this is going to be a pretty weird video, but I think it's pretty fire, my discovery, and I got to put you guys on. I'm no longer an atheist. I am a chaos magician. Now, that means I practice chaos magic. Now, what the fuck is magic? Well, I like Aleister Crowley's definition of magic being the science and art of causing reality to conform to your will. I'd also like to add to that definition that could be through psychological or spiritual means. And basically, this video is going to be me explaining to you guys how I went from a Christian to an atheist to now a chaos magician. But also, this video is basically going to be the part one of this new journey I'm starting on the channel. So I'm still going to make Bitcoin content, of course. I'm still going to make commentary on iFunny. But I'm also going to be posting my journey as a chaos magician. Any rituals I get put onto or to learn about, any spells I think are useful, any paradigm shifts I get put onto, I'll post that on my YouTube channel now. That's the move now. So I was thinking maybe like the next 2 or 3 videos, I show you guys my money bowl I made and some oracle cards I bought. And I'm really trying to get like some idols, like maybe 2 or 3 of them for specific deities. And maybe in a different video, I'll show you like the servitors and sigils I have tattooed on me. But I'm just going for a walk down the hood. I'm not going to show anything cool today in this video. I'm just walking. So you can just listen if you want to. But basically, I grew up and was born into a Christian household. I had Bible study on Wednesday, church on Sunday. My mom was in the choir. And I was taught that the Abrahamic God, Yahweh, created the universe in 6 literal days, right? Adam and Eve were real people. Noah's flood actually happened, you know. The Old Testament isn't metaphorical. I was taught that this stuff actually happened. And that, New Testament, Jesus came down as God's son, who was also God, depending on your interpretation, sacrificed himself for humanity so that we could all not be damned to hell. Now, that religion is what was cool with me until about maybe like, I don't know, 9 or 10. And then you start getting questions like, what always bothered me, even as like a small child, like even when I did believe in Christianity, it was like whenever I pray to this God Yahweh, he never like verbally responds, you know, like when you're having a conversation with like your friend or your parent or, you know, I don't know, like your spouse, they're visible right in front of you and they can talk back to you. And it kind of bothered me how like when you pray, there's no audible response. You're just talking to yourself, it feels like. Sometimes it feels like you're talking to yourself. And that always bothered me as a kid. But eventually, you know, you get to like maybe like 10 or 11 or so, and you start asking these questions that no one has like a good answer to, you know? And so what it comes down to is, at some point you got to realize, okay, I need to just read the Bible for myself. Because I thought, hey, this is, the Bible is the Word of God, right? And I claim to be a Christian, but haven't even read it. And so maybe if I read the whole thing, most, if not all my questions will be answered. And by the time you get to the New Testament, you'll probably be an atheist. Like just the Old Testament alone, it's just Jewish mythology. It's literally just like Greek mythology, but for Jews. It's kind of ridiculous. And then again, in one of my previous videos, what really irked me was that Yahweh is pro-slavery. Like Yahweh is definitely pro-slavery. He tells you right there how to buy and sell slaves, how to treat them properly, what treating them improperly looks like. Exodus, Leviticus, it's in there. So um, when you describe him as all loving and like all powerful and all knowing, omnipresent, but then like throughout the Old Testament, he's like making several mistakes and throwing temper tantrums like a child would. It's just either Yahweh doesn't exist or the Old Testament is Jewish propaganda for the tribal warfare god Yahweh. That being said, once you get to middle school, you start taking like somewhat like serious science classes. You start learning about like the Big Bang and evolution. And by the time I got into middle school, I was an atheist. I was like, I made the very foolish logic of thinking that, okay, so if Christianity is false, all right, I don't fuck with this Bible. And I know the Genesis story isn't true now because like I'm now in these science classes where they have evidence and explain to me naturally how like the universe came about. Okay, so Christianity is not true. Therefore, I can throw away Judaism. Okay, that's just like proto-Christianity basically, right? And I can throw away Islam because like I don't know what the fuck Islam is, right, at the time. But if they claim to worship the same God that Jews and Christians worship, so I'm gonna just throw away Allah as well, right? And then like the Eastern religions and shit, like reincarnation and whatnot, I don't believe in that garbage. You know what I'm saying? So I was basically like an atheist for, let's say, ages 12 to 20, basically. Yeah. And I guess in like early high school, late middle school, I had like a edgy, angry atheist phase where, you of course you got to run around and try to debate the Christians and debate people on YouTube as if either one of you are going to change each other's minds. But that's whatever. Let's never mind that shit, right? And so after being about, let's say, ages 16, 17, I'm listening to rap music, and all my favorite rappers are either in the occult or some shady shit has happened with them, right? You know what I'm saying? Or like Lil Uzi Vert, Yeet, Kanye, a lot of famous rappers. Okay, they're obviously into the occult, or they've made like subliminal messages about them being in the occult, and they brag about it in their music and shit. And then that's what had like a sort of cognitive dissonance started popping up in my head, because I'm like, okay, so I'm not a spiritual person. I don't believe in any of this stuff. But these people obviously believe this stuff and it's working for them, right? So then I thought to myself, they're just being edgy. They're just being edgy. They're just doing it for clout, album sales and whatnot. But then, shit, bruh. God damn. After some more time, again, like people like Yeet, Lil Uzi Vert, after a certain while, it just became undeniable that these niggas are spiritual. These niggas are in the occult. And they may or may not have done magic rituals and whatnot to get to where they are successfully in life. And then like the Epstein files came out. This was like after COVID and whatnot. I'm 23 right now for reference. I'll be 24 in October. The Epstein files came out a bit ago. It's kind of insane how no one went to jail for that shit. But then you go into these files and these rich people are performing esoteric rituals, eating babies, assaulting children, to say it politely, in attempts to summon certain spirits. And then that's when I just that kind of shook me, because I was like, okay, they wouldn't be doing this shit if it didn't work. You know what I'm saying? Me personally, would not go to the lengths of murdering children to see if something might work. You know what I'm saying? If they've been repeatedly doing these activities for decades now, I'm now getting to the age where like I've been online long enough to where I can like look at the Pizzagate conspiracies and whatnot. This has been going on for a long time, right? the elites have always gate kept money and knowledge to stay in power. And I think that the elites have, for I don't know how long, right? Maybe like 1,000 years, let's say, maybe 800 years or so, they have been gathering in secret with each other and doing, let's just call it, occult practices for the sake of keeping themselves and their buddies in power. Now, Epstein and his friends were quite literally performing rituals to pagan gods for what reasons we don't know. We don't know. But that's when I looked into chaos magic. After fucking basically my music artists and Epstein, I had like no choice but to look into magic. You know what I'm saying? And I got into chaos magic. I looked into sigils and servitors, and I was pretty much like performing chaos magic on my own before even figuring out what it was, as far as like intention and will and desire. So chaos magic takes all the ceremonies and props and throws them all away. All right, chaos magic says it's your will and intention that causes the change, not the wand or the robes or like not even like the spirit you're calling upon. It's like well, there's many interpretations of magic, but chaos magic is basically anything you do, whether it's like a sigil or candles, all of those things don't actually do anything per se. Those just help you get into the mindset necessary to cause changes through gnosis. Gnosis in chaos magic is the alternate mental state in which you convince yourself of something to be true in order to make it true. Does that make sense? So I do that in meditation a lot. But basically, after I discovered chaos magic, I started working with sigils and servitors. And within like the first 2 to 4 months, I started seeing noticeable results. But at the same time, it's like, I don't know if this is confirmation bias or like the placebo effect. So I gotta keep going with this shit. And I've been stacking onto it. So now I did a lot of armchair activities where I just kind of sat around learning about magic instead of doing anything about it at first. But I made my first money bowl. I'm actually pretty excited about that shit. I got some oracle cards, and I started looking into some deities I might want to work with. I haven't made a pantheon yet, but it's pretty lit so far. And let's see. Oh yeah. So now we have to go back to the implications, right? So I was an atheist. I didn't believe in gods or an afterlife. And then I discovered chaos magic and like the occult and esotericism, right? So now I have this cognitive dissonance in my head where it's like, okay, so is anything my mom taught me true? Is anything my parents taught me at all true? So then I thought, okay, so Moses, Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha. I actually don't think the Hindus have a prophet, which is kind of crazy. But like Aleister Crowley, Joseph Smith, any like religious prophet that like had any sort of momentum on earth. I like to call those people magicians. Okay, prophets and magicians are the same people. They're the same category. All a prophet and a magician are people who have figured out ways to contact and work with spirits. And there may be dozens or even hundreds of different spirits out there. And human beings just call the strongest ones gods. And tribes go to war with each other with these gods as their banners, their logos, their mascots. And if your tribe lost a war, well, your god would be deemed as a false idol or even demonized into like obviously a demon. And so that is how I explain to myself how these different religions still exist and how they all can have their miracles still, because they all technically have some truth, because we're all working with spirits. I think that creation myths and creation stories are like the propaganda for that specific god. Like, it's hard to get into right now. I'll have to explain to like a different video or some shit. Like my theology is still being developed in my head. I am still but anyways, so I've come to the conclusion that magic is real. Magick. And I'm going to try and figure out how to work with these spirits, how to contact these spirits. And I think sigils and altars are the best way to do so through my experiments so far. I like oracle cards, but I think those are kind of psychological, low-key. Which doesn't matter in chaos and magic because it's all about getting results. It's all about practicality and being pragmatic. If you need 8 candles instead of 7 and it works, go for it. If you think the colors don't matter of the candles, go for it. As long as it works, as long as you get results, the rituals, the dances, the music, none of that actually matters. It's all about your intent and will. But basically, how I've come to seeing Christianity now is there was like Moses, right, and Jesus, those 2 prophets of the Old and New Testaments. Those people were, I guess you could say, magicians or prophets, because they figured out a way to get in contact and work with a spirit that they've labeled as Yahweh. You see what I'm saying? And Yahweh has a propaganda story written about him called the Bible in order to gain more followers. Just like how the Hindu gods have their propaganda stories in India to gain more followers. The creation myths didn't actually happen. It's just there to gain followers. Like, I still believe in like science. Like we're still here by natural means. But so you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? God, I'm a little high. I'm gonna stop smoking soon too. Save that money to buy more Bitcoin. But I think that throughout time and history, human beings have been coming in contact with the same 12 to like 100 or so deities, and we just give them different names. You know, that makes sense to me anyway. And so basically, for deities I wanted to work with, once I got into magic, the demon Mammon, the god Thoth, those 2, because I want money and knowledge, low key, just straight up. I think that's why most niggas get into magic, the money and esoteric knowledge, and maybe like immortality. But I don't think you can actually live forever, like physically. Like, I think that we have souls and shit, but I think like the best you can hope for is like a new game plus, where like you die and you reincarnate with some of your memories from the past life. That'd be some cool ass shit. But I don't know. We'll get there when we get there. I think that's all I got. So I'm almost at 20 minutes. I can always just talk about more chaos magic in another video, honestly. I went from a Christian from like ages of 0 to like maybe 12, and then atheist from like 12 to 20, and then 20 to 23. Well, 20 to like 22, I was like an armchair chaos magician. I was just learning about magic and like witchcraft and shit like that. But like this past year, 23, I'm 23, I'd say I'm a chaos magician. I've been doing some little work, putting in that work, you know, meditation and shit. I think the next video or 2 I'm gonna show you guys how I made my money bowl for that wealth magic. I'm gonna show you guys my oracle cards, and I have a few sigils and servitors tattooed on my body. So I might show you guys that in the next video. All right, so shout out to YouTube, shout out to the Bitcoiners, shout out to iFunny, and peace up my magicians.